Welcome to Cooking with Gerry. Before we continue with our lunch, let's go to an earlier segment from this morning. Another early morning breakfast. Here it is, kind of like a porridge. And the ingredients are, I made a stew which had lentils, split peas, and red corn kernels. Then I took about 8 tablespoons of that, put it into the other saucepan, and I added 3 small handfuls of whole oat flakes, 1 small handful of cranberries and raisins that I washed beforehand, half a teaspoon of pink salt, the coarse grain, and 1 tablespoon of extra virgin coconut oil. And here in this container is the leftover stew that we will make something for lunch, combining a few other ingredients. Okay, so you saw the porridge type meal with the lentils, split peas, and the red corn. I think we've done very similar before. With the new addition might be with the raisins, which I like a lot. Sometimes also instead of raisins I'll put an apple, but right at the end when the heat's turned off, because I don't want to cook the apple. I like it to still be a little bit crunchy. And the reason why the morning video was so short and my voice was so low is because it's early. I don't want to disturb neighbors, and with the bright light on, being so close to nature, a lot of bugs, etc. fly in to greet the bright light. So we have something new, I think, for today. I have the frying pan heating up. I am going to put some virgin olive oil, probably about 2 tablespoons, and going to mix together. Here I have 8 quail eggs. Right here are the quail eggs. A friend is visiting. He brought these from the farm that he's staying at, so they're fresh. 8 of those went in as well. This morning I bought 7 farm fresh eggs from my neighbor. They were laid yesterday, so everything is fresh. It's right here in this bowl. I am just going to beat a little bit those eggs. And here is the leftovers from the bean stew. I have removed the liquid with a strainer because we're going to use it for a sauce, and because with too much liquid, the plan is to make an omelet. Too much liquid in an omelet and it won't hold together so well. So I'm putting all of that in with the eggs, and the only other ingredient to go into the omelet is spinach. Here is my spinach, chopped and washed and cleaned, going in. And there is one other ingredient, which is just going to be some salt. Here I have coarse grain pink salt. I'm going to put 1 teaspoon and then mix it around and pour it in the frying pan. Sometimes when I put spinach in an omelet, I will pre-cook the spinach to make it softer and easier to mix. But I want to try this time without cooking the spinach because I prefer that the spinach isn't so cooked to maintain more of its nutritional value. But it's really hard to mix. So I'm just doing a tiny bit of mix, and then I'll mix it more when it gets into the frying pan, which is now nice and hot, and right in the hot pan. And the spinach will reduce in size. That's the plan, so we can have a proper omelet. But this is an experiment, never done exactly like this, so I'm not sure. Part of the fun for me with creating meals is experimenting. So I'm just going to continue mixing now that it's a bit easier. Try and let the eggs touch every ingredient. Smells good already. It's really rare that I have quail eggs. A lot of people here like to hard boil them. They're really small, and it was a bit difficult to crack the eggs open. A lot of the bits of the shell went into the bowl. I had to remove them, but it was easier to remove the eggshell pieces than it is to remove eggshell pieces from regular eggs. I don't know why. I don't know why. So that's fairly nicely mixed up. Just a few more tosses of the ingredients, and I will cover it, and it might take 10 minutes. Flattening everything down, and let's cover it and start the next part, which will be kind of like a sauce. I am going to turn this burner on. I have just a very small Teflon coated frying pan. To wash any bowl or tool that I use with raw egg, I use vinegar, just a regular white vinegar, a trick that my uncle taught me to get rid of the smell and to disinfect. So in here I want to put, for the sauce, 1 tablespoon of salted butter. It's fairly soft because it's a hot day right now. The butter is fairly soft. And I am going to add the liquid from the bean stew that we made earlier. Let that heat up as well with the butter. And in this, I think we need also a tiny bit of salt. No, there's salted butter. If we want salt, we'll add salt afterwards. So in here, I'll show you what I have. My friend also at the same property he's been living at for a couple of months now. They have cocoa plants, and he brought this chunk, solid chunk of pure cocoa. So I cut off this part, which wasn't a complete circle because he had eaten some of it already. And it's fairly soft because of the warm temperature. So I cut that piece off, and on the cutting board I have the cocoa that I just shaved a little bit with the knife. It's right here. I don't know how well you can see it. This is also going to go in. You can see it's melted a little bit from the heat. So I'll take my other spatula and clean off that pure cocoa. Cocoa, I've learned recently watching a YouTube video by Dr. William Lee. Pure cocoa, even 80% cocoa, is really healthy. Really good for the gut microbiome. But it's very different compared to, say, a milk chocolate or even the dark chocolate. You have to go up to 80% to get the benefits, otherwise there's too much sugar. And sugar is really toxic for the body. So I want to mix that and melt the cocoa evenly. And my friend this morning also toasted some pumpkin seeds. When you toast any kind of nut or seed, you bring a lot more of the flavor. The flavor becomes a lot more intense. But you also do damage to the food item when you raise that temperature. So I normally don't roast my nuts or seeds before I eat them, but because he did, and because we have them available, I am going to add them to this sauce. Let them heat together. Let me check this, how it's doing. It's doing well. It's going to take a while to cook because of all the ingredients, and you know, I'm going to stir it around. It might be more of a scrambled egg than an omelet, and it is sticking to the frying pan, so I'm just going to scrape with a wood spatula, never using metal on a Teflon pan. And if you have one of those plastic spatulas, just make sure that there are no sharp edges. That happens sometimes with using it, because those sharp edges, kind of a burned plastic, it can scratch the Teflon coating. So this will be more like a scrambled egg instead of a omelet. If I were to put this in the oven, it would maintain its shape. But to make sure that the cooking is even, I am mixing it up. And that way also it'll cook a little bit quicker. So the sauce is now bubbling and boiling. And what I am going to add, now I know I had raisins this morning for the breakfast, but when I went to buy some veggies and the eggs, the same lady, she had locally grown grapes for sale. So I have a little bit of them right here, as well a small piece about this big of turmeric that I cut up, which stains a lot. I don't know if you can see, my fingers are a little bit stained. And I don't want to cut turmeric on my cutting board because it'll stain. I cut it in this porcelain bowl because it's much easier to clean and it doesn't stain so much. So that's the thing with turmeric. And I learned recently, to help your body absorb the benefits from turmeric, you should add black pepper. So this is turmeric, a few grapes, and the black pepper. And that's going into the sauce. So maybe you can see the staining that has happened on the plate, on the bowl, from the turmeric. Now I don't really want to cook the turmeric or the grapes. I will just let them heat through. And then I'll turn the heat off. Let's see this guy. So this is almost done. I think the main thing that needs to happen is to mostly cook those eggs. They're fresh, so they might be okay partially raw, but there's enough heat getting to the eggs that they are fully cooking. I just don't want to overcook, and that looks like within a couple of minutes it'll be done. So this I'm turning off the heat. One final stir. And then I wasn't sure what I was going to do with the sauce. I was hoping it would be thicker, but because of the liquid from the bean stew, it's a bit too liquidy. I wanted to have the omelet, and then I wanted to have the sauce to put on top. But number one, we don't have an omelet, we have more like a scrambled egg, and this is too liquidy. So, part of the experiment, I am going to add this into the scrambled eggs, and it'll be really tasty. Lots of flavors. And I'll give that a nice mix. And the liquid has kind of been absorbed, so this will be a perfect meal. So that's basically it, I think. What you could do is you could add some kind of nut or seed or root powder, or you could add chia seeds, because the chia seed will absorb the liquid. But I think that'll be nice to have a little bit of sauce. So I am turning off the heat. I will let that sit together for at least 5 minutes to cool off. My friend who has rented a room on the main floor will be down in about 5 minutes. So it'll give me perfect time to clean everything up, to let the liquid absorb into the ingredients. Fire's going off, and we'll have a really tasty, nutritious meal. So for yourself, I don't know what to suggest. You could do something exactly the same or similar. Dried fruit, fresh fruit, change up the beans, lentils, add some other kind of vegetables. Lots of variations you can do. When I was making these videos, I checked earlier the previous videos I've made, trying to do something different. So this is different. And for yourself, as I said, experiment. You'll have different preferences than I do. I am going to add some kind of extra virgin oil. I'm not sure which one. I'll decide in 5 minutes when I serve it onto a plate. And yeah, thanks for watching, and we'll see you really soon. Yeah, sorry about that. I forgot to show you what it looks like. So here we go. It's in my bowl. It smells great, looks great. I haven't tried it yet, but I'm pretty sure every mouthful is going to be, number one, different, but number two, very enjoyable. Bon appetit. Hi, thank you for watching all the way to the end. I realized while I was sitting eating that scrambled egg meal that I didn't explain how to make the stew. So I wanted to add a segment at the end to explain the process of making the stew, which we've done numerous times, and I get to report on the food, which I normally don't do, and I can say it was awesome. Every biteful had the flavor of the cocoa, sometimes intense flavor, sometimes not so intense. Some of the mouthfuls had the roasted pumpkin seeds. Some of them had the flavor of the turmeric. And all together a very enjoyable meal. So my recommendation is to try it as soon as you can. So the process is the lentils, split peas, and the red corn kernels got washed and rinsed, and I put them in a container, the same container, all three ingredients. for about 4 hours. Normally I soak them for longer, but the cook time happened to be only allowing 4 hours of soaking in the water. Then you drain that soaked water, you wash the ingredients again, drain it, and then put it in a saucepan with enough water on a low heat. And the first time I let it cook for about 15 to 20 minutes on a fairly aggressive boil, and I noticed that there was foam coming up, which I normally don't see cooking those ingredients. So that might be due to not allowing them to soak long enough in the water. And that's the reason why I changed the water, which I normally don't do with lentils and split peas. So at the 15-20 minute mark, I turned the heat off, let everything cool for about 20 minutes, drained, rinsed everything again, washed the saucepan, put fresh water, and put the ingredients back in the saucepan, back on the low heat, and then another 20 minutes of cook time. And that was the process for making the stew. It was kind of a soup, but I used most of the water to make the porridge, which was absorbed by the oat flakes and the raisins. So that's how you make the stew, and it's really easy. It just takes a bit of preparation the night before or in the morning of, if you're going to make it for your last meal of the day. So yeah, really tasty, very interesting combination. The quail eggs, the farm fresh eggs, the cocoa, the turmeric, the pumpkin seeds. It was really enjoyable, and I'm glad I got to try it, and I hope you do too. Oh, please excuse my work shirt. We're about to do a video for a variety show. It'll be its own video because it's turned into a long video, because I go through the whole process of making one of these, which, if you're curious, here is one I have made for myself using the bottom of a soda pop bottle. And because I have an outdoor kitchen, I keep them always covered with this plastic bottle. Here is another one, taller for the bigger tools, using a plastic container. Here's one I made a while ago, rectangular, putting a barrier in the middle, just because otherwise the items you put in might fall too low. This cement on the middle part of the outside, not necessary, it was just an experiment. This is the one that we finished yesterday, and part of the video of how to do it will be in this next video, which will be right after the one where we made the bean stew. It'll be video 58, and the title will be something like DIY cement container with a wire mesh. And this is the one we're going to open up today. It's been curing for 2 days, and the video, the last segment, will be looking at how this one was finished. So please, if you're curious about DIY cement stuff, check this one out, and maybe you can make something for yourself, for your kitchen, for your bathroom, for your work studio, art studio, for a friend as a gift. It was fun. I've given a lot of these away to many people as gifts, and they're very useful. So that's it for this video. Thank you.